purpose is everything. That, he was saying that, purpose is what differentiates men from boys. That once you have a purpose, like this is what I want to contribute to the world, that is a very different type of person than someone who's kind of just kind of nonchalant, kind of going with the wind, etc. And he was saying that, the whole, college liberal arts kind of culture is that, young men and women are finding themselves, whatever that means. So they're in college, not completely sure about what they want to do in life, and they're kind of just testing out different things or whatever. And sometimes, unfortunately, they even graduate with still a unclear picture of
What they want.
exactly what they want out of life, what they're passionate about, what they want to contribute to society or their community, etc. He was saying that the earlier you can find that out, the better your life would be.
My goal is to make our relationships better,
Mm.
especially for us men. Um, my guest today is Nair. Go ahead, Nair. Introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, Nail here. Nail Salahu-Din is my full name. Happy to be a part of the conversation. Happy to be a part of the
I'm
conversation.
glad to have you here, man. I'm glad to have you here. I wanted you to come to the show
Mm-hmm.
because I was hearing you doing a lecture one day. You said something about um, having a purpose before you start looking for a mate to be getting married to.
Right.
Uh, I really want to. I really want you to explain that because I just did a show
Mm-hmm.
not too long ago how a person should really have a purpose
Yes.
before they go looking for a woman because
Yes.
it's like we do things backwards,
Mm.
and it's just the society we live in.
Absolutely.
We're looking for a girl, and we ain't got no money. We don't know what we're doing,
Exactly.
but girls is always on our mind. So that's what I really could you like well first let me say this. Let me ask you this.
Hmm.
Let's go back to when you were single.
Okay.
I remember those days at Morehouse.
Yes, I do.
I remember those days.
Subhanallah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, let's go back to those days. What was it
So
like? What was it like then?
I would say, you know, being single, if you will, didn't really hit me until like my junior year of Morehouse. Like when I was like, oh snap, I need to get married. Like when it like really hit me, like, yo,
Right.
okay, like I need to stop, I need to actually take this seriously. So or I need to like, start looking or like be more intentional about, who I'm choosing as a life partner. And I remember one of the things that really got to me. I was the MSA president, so I was kind of already active in community initiative and different things. But I remember in class because I was a sociology major, so of course sociology and psychology are like hand in hand.
Mhm.
So I remember I took a class at Spelman. Allah help me, and it was a class
Wait, hold on.
named
Hold on. Let me clear. Spelman is a woman's.
Yes, all women, a campus full of beautiful
Yeah,
black educated women.
absolutely.
Very dangerous place. But alhamdulillah, beautiful women, great time. Some of the closest friends that I have today are Spelmanites. Yes, I made a lot of close relationships and I learned a lot. In this class, the class was woman, the psychology of women.
Mm.
Allah help me. So, like, yeah, the psychology of women was a
That's
very
deep.
interesting class
So
because
that's the
they
class you
really,
took.
that's the class I took.
Whoa.
That was the only elective. I didn't even want to go into it, but that initially wasn't the class I was trying to take for real.
Word.
But it ended up being a very like beautiful class. It was a great class. And of course, we had HBCU. So they're not just going to talk about it in, I guess, like the Eurocentric context, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to bring in some Afrocentricity, our tradition from the motherland. They're going to bring in a whole bunch of things. So I guess that's the blessing of being at HBCU. So I think it was a very fruitful class. It was a beautiful class. But one of the things that stuck out to me was that I remember this is like the only class I remember because I
Cause
was like, yo,
you
this
was
is
up.
serious. Right. I
You
was
was
up that
woke.
day. Yeah, man. I was like, oh snap. So it was the teacher was telling us, she was telling us that, you know, the so the society we live in makes us think. This is like in the context of relationships, women and men, gender and all that stuff, like relationships. And what she was saying was society makes us think that we have to prolong finding a mate or prolong getting into a relationship. And then by the time we are kind of almost even stuck in our ways or stuck in a routine or stuck in something, that's when we start, looking for a mate or trying to find, a mate. And we already are bringing certain, baggage with us, that could have been, avoided. So
Mm-hmm.
she was saying that, she was encouraging us as young men and women to actually make an intent. This is a lady that's that was not Muslim. But she just had a very traditional approach. She was just like, you guys should get married as young as you can, if you're able.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, because the younger you are, when you marry young, you're able to grow with a person. You're able to, there's certain you're not completely set in your ways. You're not super mature just yet. So you're even your character, who you are, can still be kind of molded to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a partner to help you with that journey, the result is even more fruitful than you waiting until you're 30 something or 40 even
Mm-hmm.
to get to start a serious relationship. That stuck out to me also, with some public health research that, even as far as our own health, it's more detrimental for women to have children, to their own bodies. Like it takes them longer to recover after a pregnancy, and the child is actually, even the percentages of them coming out with birth defects or Down syndrome or any type of effects are actually higher
When they're
when
older.
they're older, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, listen, even if you plan to have children, for your children's health, you should start relationships earlier. So all of this, she was like really like just a commercial for getting married early.
Mm-hmm.
But what the undertone of what she was saying was that, the best relationships work. I mean, not just for relationships' sake, but who you are. And while you're young, who you are is not completely done yet. But the faster you can get towards that, the better. So we have our MSA meetings. We have, and I brought up this topic amongst like the Muslims,
Mm-hmm.
and we were speaking about it. And we had Imam, we had an Imam. I think I want to say it was Imam Mendes, Sheikh Mendes, who was with us, and he was saying to us that, purpose is everything. That, he was saying that, purpose is what differentiates men from boys. That once you have a purpose, like this is what I want to contribute to the world,
Mm-hmm.
that is a very different type of person than someone who's kind of nonchalant, kind of going with the wind, etc. And he was saying that, the whole, college, liberal arts kind of culture is that, young men and women are finding themselves, whatever that means. So they're in college, not completely sure about what they want to do in life, and they're kind of just testing out different things or whatever. And sometimes, unfortunately, even graduate with still a unclear picture
Not
of
knowing
what
what they want.
exactly what they want out of life,
Mm-hmm.
what they're passionate about, what they want to contribute to society or their community, etc. He was saying that the earlier you can find that out, the better your life would be. So he uh so after that, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I know I need to get married, but if I haven't really clearly found out my purpose, then marriage is not, I guess I'm not ready. Because some people will tell you, you never are all the way ready. And that's true. There's certain things you're just not gonna know until you actually live with
Get
the
into it.
person. To right,
Mhm.
it's not something you could just master before you get into it.
Right.
But at the same time, you want to be as prepared as possible. And I would say half the preparation is within finding your purpose. I believe that. I think half the preparation of being successful at being a spouse, at being a lifelong partner with someone
Mhm.
is really knowing your purpose and living through
So
that.
when you said that, I thought about knowing your purpose.
Mm,
You really know yourself at that point,
exactly.
and that's what it's about. It's about knowing who you are
Exactly.
before you're able to give yourself to
Indeed.
somebody else. Would you say
Indeed.
that?
Yes, 100%. That you, I would say you really don't fully know who you are until you found your purpose,
I was
until you
watching a
can
movie last
acknowledge,
night.
yeah.
Watching a movie last night, and it said uh, one of the lines was, "If you aim at nothing, you get nothing." It was talking about
Mm,
shooting arrows. If
mm,
you aim at nothing, you hit nothing,
mm.
and that's just like
It's real,
as
right?
us as men, we need to be aiming at something. Like you said,
Exactly.
you're just wandering around in life if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have
Exactly.
a somewhere where you're going, or it's something that you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Exactly. It's so important because I feel like life is really continuous.
Mhm.
There's no time doesn't stop going, if you will. You know,
You good?
yeah, time doesn't stop going. So because time doesn't stop, your productivity shouldn't stop either. Like as our teachers used to say to us, on the path of life. There's really no stillness. It's either you're progressing or you're degressing, or you're going. It's either you're going forward. There's moments where you yourself need to be still,
Mhm.
but that stillness is to rejuvenate yourself to be productive again.
Right.
So it's not like it's not being still is not a waste of time, you know, if the intention is for you to be still
To
to
regroup.
regroup.
Uh,
But so that's what I'm but not but the point being that there's always something that you should be working to. There's always an intention that you should be seeking out. There's always something that you should be, reaching for.
mm-hmm.
It should never be, okay, even once you complete a task, what's next?
You're right.
It's like it should never be, okay, I'm done this. Okay, let's celebrate. Let's watch, let's binge watch this show, or
Right.
and I mean for some of us, I mean, of course, we're all, we watch movies, etc. But
Mm.
if it's like encompassing, if it's really taking your time
Right.
from your responsibilities, that's when it's an issue.
Yeah.
So um just and that's how my father was. Really, my father even was very much like that. He really, impressed that upon me and my brothers, that you have to be, there's you should never be content enough. You should be content with God, but you shouldn't be content with where you're at. It should always be, okay, what can I and if not necessarily even with monetary things, like material things, but where you're at here.
Mm.
Like, if you got what you need materially, good. Now you could even focus more
More
on
on the spiritual
just
dimension.
spiritual. Exactly.
Right.
So you should always be trying to progress to something. It should never be like, you know what, I'm good. So and he impressed upon us that that's one of the, that's how a man should be.
So I hear you saying a lot about your teachers and your father. How
Right.
important is it to have a mentor
Mm.
towards finding your purpose?
SubhanAllah. I would say, man, a mentor that's the differentiator between those who are successful and those who aren't.
Mm.
I would say the blessing of me being able to, gain a perspective on life that kind of, I guess, propelled me in certain ways at younger than a lot of my peers was mentorship.
Mentor.
You know, being and of course, um, when your family is your first mentors, your father, your uncles,
Mm-hmm.
your brother, your older brothers, your cousins, these are your first mentors, really. So I really feel like that started in the household. And then my parents put me, in a school, in a community where that was flourished, that was cultivated, and that was really, my foundation. So if you got a strong foundation, you know, alhamdulillah, everything kind of falls in place. So that was, I think all praises to due to God for that, man. I thank Allah for that foundation.
For a mentor.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of us,
Mm.
we don't have that. Like you say about it starts in the home. A lot of us got women in the home,
Right.
and they do
Mm.
their best job to raise boys,
Right.
but they really can't. You know what I'm saying?
True.
I mean, they can, but they can't show us how to be men.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I grew up through that. I
Mm.
grew up in that. Yeah. So I mean, how? What's the example? I mean, do you like if you don't have that in the home or
Mm.
you don't have your parents, putting you somewhere where you could get that?
Mm.
Where's the best place to go to find a mentor, or how do you recognize that
Mm.
this is the person that I need to be following, or I
Mm.
like what this person's saying? Like, what I'm saying?
I would say, in my experience, I would say some of the if you don't have a a male figure in the household, I think you should still search, especially as a young man, like before puberty, even. It still should start even within the family, or like or maybe a network through the family.
Mm,
Maybe if if there's an uncle, a cousin you have, something where another man can help you out as a young man. And I want to be clear in saying that I think mentorship is uh, general but also specific. In that, um, in my experience, there was never one man that had everything, if you will, or that could pour
right.
everything into me. But it was different men.
Even your father.
Right.
Uh,
Even my father.
there were some things you can come to him about, and some things that you
Right. It
just.
was certain things that I was even more comfortable speaking to my older brothers about, speaking to my uncles about,
Mm-hmm.
than my father. And my father, Allah preserve him. He acknowledged that. He didn't feel, really any type of way about me going to my uncles or going to my cousins or going to other people. But I would say, like, the first kind of the direction, my father really put me on a trajectory, a direction, which kind of gave me some ability to discern who I should be listening to, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
or who I can take from. So, because even there's certain members of the family that might not be the best
See,
people
man,
for
and
you.
see, that's what really.
That's I mean, being honest, man. Is that sometimes you got that one uncle, like, yeah, I don't know if I should be listening to you,
See,
unc.
listen, man, listen. That's where I come from. So, like,
Right.
I was raised by
Mm.
my aunts and my grandmother, or
Right.
whatever. I had an uncle.
Mm.
He was a thug. Like this. But
Yeah.
that's what was attracted to me. Like, I
Mm.
was attracted to that life, man. The
Mm.
drug dealers.
Mm.
I mean, in the neighborhood I was living in, you know what I'm saying? You seen dudes ride around with the big cars with the
Mm.
get down in it.
Mm.
I wanted that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Wow.
that's that. Those dudes was attracted to me.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I think Allah really helped me because
Alhamdulillah. Mm.
the even my uncle friends,
Mm.
like I had a next door neighbor. This dude, he used to catch me outside. I was cursing one day at the park. He was like, "Hey, boy, you better not be cursing like that. Wash your mouth out with soap." This is my uncle friend.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So they always, I found dudes or men in my life, the old dudes older than me, always kept me in line or kept me
Mm.
on the track.
Alhamdulillah.
You know what I'm saying? And I praise God for that. I
Mm.
praise God for that because
Alhamdulillah.
I was attracted to the life, man. I'm telling you, man. Even so much so
Alhamdulillah.
that I was mentored by a pimp. He
Mm.
told me some really good stuff,
Mm.
but that wasn't a life for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I got those
Mm.
lessons and I moved
Mm.
on.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I think thank you for that. I think mentors
Definitely.
are very really
Definitely.
important, and you just got to be careful
Who, right? Exactly. You just gotta be careful who, because I mean that lifestyle. I remember growing. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Bed-Stuy. Of course, that was present
Brooklyn in the
in
house?
Brooklyn in the house. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. I was definitely present in Brooklyn, but I would say, my I remember as early as my I had two elder brothers that were a part of the Nation of Islam. They were they still in the nation actually,
Mhm.
and they were, I remember, just riding around town with them. And they before they really got kind of serious into the nation,
Mhm.
they they kind of was doing, they was in that life too.
Right.
But so they knew like everybody, the street cats knew them, etc. And they were like bringing people to Islam
Mhm.
from that life. But they introduced us, you know I guess what my elder brothers did, uh they humanized these thugs or whatever to us. It was like these are still people. And many times, even what they're doing is not really because they want to do it. It's not their aspiration in life.
Mhm.
But they have, certain, things that happen to them in life and certain things that they're going through where they may feel that this is necessary for them to be able to provide for their family or do something, or, etc. So I feel like after having that viewpoint,
Mhm.
it was easier for me to, respect them, one,
Mhm. Mhm.
for they're human. They
Right.
still, they make mistakes, they make decisions that may not be the best, but to also to let me see that, okay, you need to get serious about, every decision you make leads up to, what you're going to be doing, or what aspect so it even was an encouragement for me to take school more seriously, to
Mhm.
me to, etc. So I thank my brothers for doing that for me, because they really that helped me. Because I was, when you young, you are attracted to that life. These dudes is
Man.
making money, all the girls is
They
coming
getting
to
all
the
the
right,
girls.
yeah, right. You like, oh snap, what they doing? I want to do what
Right.
they doing.
Yeah.
But then, once you really, see, behind that, what's really behind it, you're like, okay, okay, this is a lifestyle. This is something that they're doing, but it's really a lot more than what meets the eye, you know
Mhm. Mhm.
and even above, that lifestyle, you could, you don't want to get lost in, because I mean a lot of those dudes, they ended up, some of them ended up in jail. You don't see them,
Man.
then you see them like 10 years later, then you see them like 7 years later,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. They ain't dead.
yeah.
Like a lot of, I mean, man. It
Right.
was it was a time.
Mm.
Well, actually, it was an older guy. We called him Abu Slaughter because he used to always go slaughter. He used to always go slaughter goats or whatever. But he was like, man, these you don't see the black men,
Mm.
young black men no more, and they ain't dead. They in jail.
Exactly.
They in prison. Like they giving them long life sentences in prison for that. That uncle that was a thug, yeah, that's where he at right now. I mean, it finally it catches up. It
It
catches up
catches
with you.
up, right?
The
Exactly.
life is the life. Is wonderful while you out here.
Right.
It's good and bad to it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But
Exactly.
you get into it, and I think a lot of us,
Mm. Mm.
a lot of us young men, we attracted to the life and we attach onto it early
Mm.
before we learn our purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
before we start going
Exactly.
towards our purpose, or
Exactly.
before we find that mentor that's really showing us something right. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Showing us
Exactly.
something right.
Exactly.
So, all right, so that's the mentor. That's your purpose. Let's get into getting married.
Okay.
Let's get into getting married. So when I was, I mean, when, coming up for me, it was like, when a guy wants to marry a girl, he would get on one knee and ask her to marry him. That get on one knee thing, that's what I want to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's humbling himself
Mm.
before her.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and then that's just bowing to her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I, I respect everything about you,
Mm.
and I'm willing to give myself,
Mm.
provide for you in a marriage.
Mm.
I want you to be mine.
Mm.
I don't. That's not a thing anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I mean,
Exactly.
dudes still do it, of course, but it's
Right.
not as prevalent as it was back, a few
Right.
years ago.
Right.
Dudes is just not wanting to get down on the knee and humble
Exactly.
themselves in front of women.
Mm.
Is it us or is it the women?
I would say it's a little bit of both. In my experience, there's a place for masculine, there's a place for feminine, and that because that is completely out of order and out of whack in today's society, that is what I believe has shifted, men from even the desire to want to marry, and
Wow.
even women from the desire to want to marry as well, want to submit to a man, to want to, be a helpmate, a partner to a man. So I really feel like that is what we're dealing with now. And I remember one of the most beautiful, khutbahs that I ever heard on marriage, um, was an imam, you know, explaining the symbolism behind a man getting on one knee in front of a woman.
Okay.
That, we know that, in Islam, the womb of a woman is connected to Allah's throne.
Mm.
There's a hadith, um in the books of hadith in our tradition. There's a hadith that says that the woman has a organ in her body that is connected to the arsh, the throne of Allah, and that organ is the womb. So
Mm.
the symbolism that, what we learned was a man getting on one knee to take on a woman as his life partner. It's not about the woman. It's not about her, because this is not like shirk. You're not bowing to a creation. This is not like this is really you acknowledging what Allah has connected through this woman, has connected her to his throne, to his arch, his and acknowledging that she is an instrument of human life, that every human being that comes on this plane has to come through a
Has to
woman.
come through.
So you getting down on a knee and proposing is really, you know, that's the idea that we should have in our minds, because, for some men, getting down on one knee in front of anybody is a challenge. They're like, what, man? A knee? What? Psh. And then, women, they have an idea, especially now that, we live in a post-feminist, this whole feminist type of, ideology, on top of the whole LGBT, on top of all of these things that are just, completely flipping the script on every traditional idea as it pertains to gender, sex, relation, etc.
Right.
So with that, even women nowadays, they're even more. They're not, they see, they have a understanding of the idea of being married and submitting to a man as something that makes them powerless, or something that, takes away their agency of, doing what they want to do, or, it's disempowering for them,
Mm.
which is a very, very new concept, what I'm saying, in throughout history, that, the woman's power, um, in almost every indigenous society, the woman's power was her influence on the man,
Mm.
because of the man's love for the woman. There were complete wars over women. There was certain groups of people completely wiped out over a woman. So, I mean, that's not the most positive, but I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
say
but the
that,
concept is
right. I
there. I
say
see what
that
you're saying.
exactly, as
Yeah.
far as like the concept of women, their power came in how much they were able to influence men, because men, they loved and protected women,
Mhm.
and they accepted that as their duty, as something that they had to do.
And this was at a time
Right.
where masculinity was prevalent in the
Exactly.
society.
Exactly.
So these same men masculine men were able to get on their knee and say, "Hey, yo,
Mm,
listen, I love you. Would
exactly.
you be my wife?
Mm,
Would you take this ride with me for life? You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Let's do this.
mm,
Let's do this forever." These are
Alhamdulillah.
masculine men doing
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
now. But I think it's like you said, it's
Mm.
because of the confusion of
Right.
masculine and feminine energy. Like
Right.
I,
Mm.
I I mean, I'm on social media, and that's what you see women doing now. You know what I mean? Women getting on one knee. What does that mean?
It's just completely. I think that
We're in the upside down.
I'm completely just. I think women getting on one knee because I don't think. I mean, we know that it is the soon. If a woman wants to propose, that's fine. We know that that's not uh, a foreign idea. For a woman, the Khadijah proposed to Prophet Muhammad. So we don't so right. We don't. So it's not an issue, but even in situations where women propose, women, it was never a thing for women to get down on a knee and I feel like that symbol, of a woman getting on a knee in front of a man is just completely backwards to me.
Mm,
Completely backwards to me, given what Allah has put in a woman that's connected to his throne.
mm.
So I really feel that any man that really understands what that means, like what the value of a woman and the reality of what a woman represents, would not even be comfortable with a woman getting
Yeah.
on a knee and in front of.
So what is it though? I mean, dudes, I think women are doing it,
Right.
are really proposing. I
Mm.
mean, they get on one knee, but I think they're really proposing to dudes because men don't want to take
Exactly.
charge and say, "Hey,
Mm.
marry me."
Exactly.
But that's for a reason too, though.
Exactly.
The men are not men are not saying that because maybe she's not displaying, you know what I'm saying, those wife.
Exactly. Qualities or right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just feel like um even a woman, and I feel like in the time we live in today, because even how that because when women say, because we do have some Muslima feminists, some ladies who are Muslim, but who are also feminists. They have, they're trying to mix these kind of modern ideas with our tradition,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think is the best idea. But I just want to be clear that in the understanding of understanding the reality of what you're looking at, understanding the reality of what is in a woman, what is in a man, etc. I me just explaining, the symbolism between a man getting on a knee in front of a woman, but then, understanding that a man seeing marriage, the institution of marriage itself, as a means to get him closer to fulfilling his purpose. And I feel like because a lot of men, unfortunately, today are lacking purpose, that they don't understand how they don't even see how a woman, committing themselves to protecting and growing with a woman can even help them progress.
Bars.
And then in the sense that even a woman, because I mean there's also a tradition, right? And I think that this is even, this is a lot of women don't like this tradition. But there's also a tradition, this is a hadith, an authentic hadith as well, where you're seeing, you see the reality of what a person is, who a person is, what they're on, what they represent, and that puts you in awe of who that person is.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a tradition in which Abu Hurairah, he saw, he walked in on the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and after talking to the Prophet, he had a clearer vision of who the Prophet Muhammad was, not just the physical, not just the man, but what he represented, in the universe, like who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he, in awe of what he knew about the Prophet, he made sajda in front of the Prophet. And the Prophet immediately, no, never bow in front of another man. Like, no, get up. No, this is not, this is not This is not a part of our tradition. We bow to Allah only. But what he said afterwards, he said, if there was any relationship in which I would tell one to bow to another, it would be the wife to her husband. So this tradition, of course, is not popular in the feminist, but what it what it does speak to is a man who is whole and with and in and living through their purpose is a very strong and divine individual. That a man who is whole and firm in what they're doing, they know they have direction, they're a leader, they're guiding their family, they're doing what they need to be doing. This is someone who, even according to the prophet, a wife should humble herself in front of her husband who has reached that level. So it speaks to the levels. You start the man starts off getting on a knee in front of the woman, and then once he becomes whole, as the prophet said, it's as if he is deserving of a wife bowing in front of him. So it shows you that the levels of the potential of what we can reach when we live through our purpose and we're whole in that is divine. It's a divine thing. It's something that is unique, something that is spiritual, something that really, I believe, would change our communities. Like, completely.
Absolutely.
Completely.
And that's what we want to do. I mean,
Mm,
for this, that's why we're doing this. We
mm,
want to help change our communities
mm,
to make our relationships stronger, because
mm.
making our relationships stronger is going to change the community.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You want
Inevitably.
to raise more healthy children. You
Mm,
want to, you know what I'm saying, be a more better example in the community or whatever.
indeed.
But to what you just said, I can just see women saying, "He ain't worth it.
I
He ain't
know,
worth it."
right? And I mean, I'm not even surprised or shocked at that type of commentary anymore, because I know that there's a lot of women who have gone through so much trauma,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
and seen a lot of
And
trauma
exactly.
also.
So because of
Yeah.
that, I understand where that response comes from. So I don't take that personal. But, and I've seen some things too. Like, I've seen both, alhamdulillah, Allah has shown me both. Allah has shown me the toxic, the trauma, but Allah has also shown me the other side, the beauty, what it looks like for a man and woman to be in love and, be in love with God through their spouse, if that makes sense. Someone like their spouse reminds them of the mercy and the beauty of God.
That was gonna be my last question, man. You just messed it up.
Oh
It's
man, my
you,
bad.
bro.
My bad.
But the thing, though, that I was gonna, the last question is, how important is love?
Love is everything, man. I really feel like love is the only emotion that is that cannot be put into words fully. It's something. It's an emotion. It's a feeling. It's a reality that is almost inexplainable. That because as they say, love needs no explanation. You know, it's rationally irrational, if that makes sense. Like, there's no when you have a love for a thing, you might look crazy to somebody else. Like, why are you doing this? Like, what's your motivation? Etc. But love has no. It's irrational. It's really irrational in its reality because you're giving yourself completely to something, and it may really come off irrational. As the prophet said, remember Allah until people say you crazy, until people think you crazy. Because when you love something, it's inevitably going to, the inward, you can't bring out, because love, I think the highest reality of love is not something that can be expressed outwardly. It's really an inward reality. And because it's such a powerful emotion and such a complete, encompassing emotion,
Mm.
it can't be expressed, you know, fully outwardly. So you have to, so you can live love, but I feel like, there's moments of things that, and it may be like, okay, why did you do that? Why would you do something like this? Why would you, what I'm saying? You went out of your way to do this or this and this and this. Like, well, I love this person, and
And you can't explain
you
that.
can't even explain it.
Right.
When you start thinking about it yourself, like maybe that didn't make sense, but that is like, look, man, I love this,
Yeah.
and I feel like, I think one of the first examples of that often for men is their mothers. Like we love our mothers, and that eventually, you know transfers over to our wives, and our daughters, our son, our children. So I just feel like there's love is a very unique thing, and I really feel like it's something that allows us to live, fully and completely live up to our full potential. There's certain things that I think that is going to be hard. It will be a challenge to do unless it is driven by that emotion of love.
Mm. Beautiful, man. Beautiful, man. Thank you, man.
Of course,
Thank you.
man.
We finally did it.
You finally did it, right? Yes.
Hopefully, inshallah, God willing, I have you back though. But
Of course, man. Hey, man. Let me know, man. If I got time, I got you, man.
cool.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank y'all for watching, man. Y'all be safe.
Mm. Alhamdulillah.